This you can't see Dennis right now because in the middle of recording, he's just doing laundry. And here he comes right now. In the same room that he's recording on a boom mic, he's doing laundry. There's like 8 loads in an industrial spin cycle directly to his left. It literally sounds like the space shuttle taking off. Like the Challenger shuttle is going to explode in the background of Dennis's house, and he's going to be like, what, we can't record with that in the background? What's your problem?
I didn't think you guys could hear it.
You didn't think we could hear the industrial sized will hold 19 loads simultaneously laundry machine 7 inches from your left going on full spin cycle. That's like uneven. One side is like not shim. The thing is bouncing. You could stick a chick on that and she could orgasm in 8 seconds. That's how out of balance that thing is. And you're just like, what's up? Yeah, exactly. Yet.
Who was it that sold the washing machine to Moe's for them to have races between washing machines?
There's only like 17 minutes left in the cycle, man. Come on, guys.
Right.
Oh, it was filling up for rinse. That's what it was. That's what that was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Wait, so do you want me to leave? Do you want me to leave my setting at where it was, like minus 80 decibels?
I want you to turn off the laundry.
I paused it. It's good.
Okay.
All right, you're fine, and we're recording.
Okay.
Just all right.
Yes.
Nice.
All right,
about
everyone.
my household appliances shit. Wow.
Talking about his
appliances
soiled
came up.
undergarments.
Ooh.
They're in a deep
undergarments.
They're in a deep cycle with some bleach.
As you're,
twist, I don't wear undergarment.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh,
Dad, do you wear boxers or briefs? Nope.
Plot twist, Kevin has jorts on at the moment.
Don't make me show them.
No, don't.
I dare you.
Let me cover
You're
up the
wearing
screen
a
first.
Yonone
Go
shirt.
ahead.
You have to show them.
Exactly. My junk is just out.
What a great way to start this podcast.
What
Let's
a great
really
way
do
to
it.
start this podcast.
Welcome to BrotoGP. This is episode number 122. We are still going with these massive numbers of podcasts. What just happened? Assen happened. The track is so different that we finally had a different winner this season.
Episode will be entitled 122, Rob Does Assen Stuff.
What else are we going to talk about? We'll talk about Yamaha. We'll talk about Maverick. We're going to give you a little preview for MotoE. We will probably talk about Johan Zarco and maybe a little bit of Fabio. But all right.
Rob's going to just pretend like I didn't find a gigantic cache of Mexican porn in my dumpster. And he claims he's not going to let me talk about it, but like we're going to talk about that. Like it's going to happen.
I'm rolling the intro. Kev, just to let you know, when I'm rolling the intro, no one can actually hear us.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm always
okay.
hella quiet. I'm always like...
All right, let's jump into our first point. Kev will interject with Mexican comedian porn at some point. So Maverick won the race.
We're not going to talk about Rider's Law?
Well, yes.
Not
right.
after we just mentioned Mexican porn.
Yeah,
I think it's ideal.
I wanted to separate them just a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Break him up a little bit, man.
Okay, let's do it then.
All right. The
amazing banner that you see right behind me is for Rider's Law. They're your motorcycle accident injury lawyers. If you need any legal help, if you need help with your insurance, if you need help because you got into an accident, if you just need some legal advice, maybe a recommendation for someone outside of the state of California, please give Rider's Law a call. They're amazing lawyers. They do amazing things for our sport and the motorcycle industry as a whole, and they would very much appreciate it, and so would we if you called them with your legal needs. I think I've got this thing down pat. Is there anything... Oh... There's some cool stuff happening with Rider's Law at Laguna Seca in what is it, like 10 days from now?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So if you're in Northern California or attending Laguna Seca from out of town, out of state, come by the Riders Law vendor booth. We're going to have probably some swag to give away, maybe some autographs from the Riders Law racers. If you're in the paddock, come see me, come see Jason Aguilar, come see all the racers, come say hi. There's a huge Riders Law presence going on at Laguna Seca, and we would just want to make sure everyone has a great time. Come say hi. We'll hook you up. Come talk to the lawyers, too, if you need it. They'll be there. They'll be having a good time, though, too, watching motorcycle racing. You can watch the race with them.
Yeah, maybe try to limit the talk to motorcycles instead of, like, litigation stuff.
At least a little bit.
Next time I see Sai, I'm going to put the system on trial.
Wow. I feel like he's not like a Supreme Court lawyer. He's like a... personal law. I actually don't know what form of law they entitle themselves as. Because they're not like corporate law. They're not like patent
Esquire.
law.
Personal claims, maybe.
Personal claims?
Yeah.
That would make sense.
This is kind of sad that we don't know exactly what they practice after so many years of supporting us.
No, I know what they practice. I just don't know what they call it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, bro.
I mean, I do say that they're motorcycle accident injury lawyers at the start of that segment every time. We'll go with that. Yes. Check out riderslaw.com. They have phone numbers up on there. Give them a call. And we'll remind you at the end of the episode probably too. All right. Thank you. All right. We're jumping into Maverick Vinales now. I think the takeaway from this entire race was, the takeaway that a lot of people seem to be pushing is that Maverick is back and Yamaha is back. And I don't necessarily agree. But I feel like I've got to ask you guys first.
I actually have to concur with you. I mean, he clearly had the raw speed during the race, but he was also running ragged at times. But I don't know. I'm not sure if he's fully back yet to top form. Although from what I read earlier, it seems like he's saying that, the Assen race isn't just a fluke. So he seems to think that it's going to be a sign of an upward trend for them.
I mean, based on his results, it is just a fluke. He's been taken out 3 or 4 times. He obviously the previous race where the Yamaha seemed to have some amount of pace at Catalunya, we didn't get to see it. Maverick, classically, he has previously won practice and done well kind of up until maybe Q2, and then just gotten terrible starts and been nowhere in the race. So this one is a fluke in that he was able to translate good pace in practice and in qualifying all the way to winning the actual race. But I can't help but look at the fact that Assen is such an outlier track on the calendar that it just makes me not think that he's going to take these results and go anywhere with them. Or I am thinking that he's not going to do anything with it.
I don't know. I'm torn because he was making a handful of mistakes during the race, but he was still there, able to keep up and eventually take the win. So I don't know. I guess I'm not fully convinced yet either, but I'm kind of hopeful that it's definitely an upward trend for them.
Kev, you've been having trouble talking about Yamaha this entire season. What does this win do for you?
When I saw this win, what I pictured was that meme where that little guy sitting in like the room of fire, and then it zooms up on his face, and he's like, "This is fine." But all I could think of was Lynn Jarvis, Maverick winning one race every 18 months. This is like no, it's not gonna do. It's totally an outlier. All it does, Maverick does just enough to make them think like, yeah, okay, we gotta win. Like we're doing all right. Like they're not improving in any way, and with everyone else improving, and now a Yamaha satellite team that's getting insane results, no, they're not improving. They're getting worse by relative to the rest of the people. Like it's not I think it's an outlier, just like you said. It's always been an outlier. Like we see Ben Spies win here, Valentino got a win, and his kind of last win. It's not a place that's like referential for the rest of the season by and large. Like you said on the BrotoGP Army page, like maybe a fast flowing track like Phillip Island, Maverick could do well, but it's like all we saw was him riding on the ragged edge and blowing corners a bunch in the race skip with Marquez, and then Marquez like backing off because he already has the title basically wrapped up. Just has to bring it home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so to exactly what you said, or what both of you said, like, he did make mistakes, but Assen is the place where that's possible for the Yamaha. Right. There are pretty much no hard drives at this track. Like, I'm looking at the track map here. The drive out of the Timmer chicane is kind of a hard drive, but not really, because you have to do the actual chicane. The hard braking zones, there's a hard braking zone into the chicane and a hard braking zone into turn 1, maybe a little bit into turn 9, but it just, everything that the Yamaha is terrible at isn't at Assen. And everything that the Yamaha is good at is at this track.
It's flattered by the track.
Yeah.
Like, it masks their weaknesses and bolsters their strengths, but it like, to an extent that it's kind of hiding. You know, like, it totally flatters the good parts they have, and then like the shitty stuff they have doesn't really come into play at this one particular
Yeah, and we still saw
need a
issues
lot more
too.
than this. Right,
like,
exactly.
Like, we saw Fabio with the massive head shake. We saw Maverick unable to get the bike stopped into turn 1 on occasion, right? Like, when he tried to push the bike on the brakes to actually make a pass or gain time, he wasn't able to do it. At a turn like turn 1 here, which is really not that hard of a braking zone, like when we get to Motegi, those braking zones are just going to destroy the Yamaha once again. Dennis, what were you going to say there?
Well, I was going to say, I'm not trying to jump into the Sachsenring round yet, but that's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Marquez is going to win it. But what if Vinales thinks he can actually do a podium at the next round? If he does, is that going to, I don't know, sway you guys a little bit?
I mean, yeah, sure. If he gets a podium and he follows up his win, staying competitive, especially at a track not, doesn't play to their strengths, then I'll start to talk about it. But, you're getting one win a year for a guy who really should be doing better than that. It just goes to show you that, like, when everything falls into place in an 18 race season, they could snag one.
Well, and to bring up Sachsenring, the podium was Marquez, Rossi, Maverick last year.
Right.
So while it's now more so like Coda, as in Marquez has won so many times there that people are wondering, like, it's like roulette. We've hit 9 reds. Are we finally going to get a black? Like, come on, it has to happen.
Doesn't work that way. That's called the gambler's fallacy, by the way. The odds don't increase based on the reference to the previous round.
Yeah, so in motorcycle racing, it's actually slightly... The odds are affected by the previous round, just a little bit, but yes, I do wonder, like, the Sachsenring is definitely a track that favors the Yamaha more than some other tracks. I'd say it's probably you take the average track in the MotoGP calendar, it favors the Yamaha more so than that one. But can I discount the fact that Marquez is so successful here? No. Do I expect the Yamaha to actually win this coming weekend? No. But we shouldn't be making predictions because we're terrible at them. In fact, I'm going to say that a million times. Marquez is going to win. Marquez is going to win. Marquez is going to win. Because I'm really bad at predictions.
He's going to win. He's super going to win. He's totally going to win.
Well, speaking of Marquez for a little bit, I don't know about you guys, but it was pretty sweet to watch, to finally get a glimpse of a battle between Maverick and Mark. I mean, it wasn't like a race-long battle. It was pretty short, but it was sweet. I'm kind of secretly wishing that we get to see that again when both riders have equal stake at the championship. Because at some point you have to think that Marquez realized, all right, I got a championship lead here to protect, so I'm just gonna let this guy
I don't
go.
know if you were listening to the commentators. They spent 3/4 of the race jizzing over the fact that he's not gonna think about the championship. He's a racer's racer. That's what's so special about him. He's gonna race and he's gonna take it to him. He's not thinking about it at all. And then the moment he was, they're like, look at him. He's so smart. He's so intelligent. He's such a champion. He's thinking about it. He's not gonna toss it away for a guy who's not. It was like the equivalent of heads I win, tails you lose, right? Like, they literally just spent the first 2/3 of the race talking about how he is not going to race for the championship, and that's why he's so awesome. And then the final third, they talked about how awesome he was for backing off, being intelligent, and racing for the championship. All I know is no matter what he does, apparently it's the best thing to do.
I'm fine with that. Didn't we have an entire conversation about how announcers must be hype?
Right, there's other things to hype. I mean, maybe Dora's in their ear. I mean, there's a whole field of people. You got, Fabio's right there getting third. Just got arm pump surgery. He's following up his fucking podium. He gets pole. There's a lot of other interesting storylines to take place.
That's a very good point. How am I going to disagree with this?
Yeah, exactly.
God damn it. Do we want to transition to Fabio yet? I mean, it's still Yamaha here, but okay. The one other thing that I want to say about Yamaha and Assen too is something that the announcers did actually say in one of the practice feeds. It's that supposedly the asphalt at Assen is so grippy compared to so many of the other tracks that they go to, that even when the asphalt makes it up to 45 Celsius, 110 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever, even the Yamaha can still have amazing grip, right? Because that was one thing that we'd seen before out of the Yamaha in previous years at tracks like Catalunya, where the second it gets hot, they start to struggle. But here it was warm, like Europe had the freaking record-breaking heat wave come through, and thankfully by Sunday it had already cooled off just a little bit. But the Yamaha was still able to be successful at the track with the high temperatures because the asphalt is so great. I don't know why we don't get that asphalt elsewhere in the world. Like,
since we're talking about Yamaha right now, trying to segue into Fabio, why don't you tell me about what the heck was going on with Fabio's bike and all that head shake?
Hard transition.
What do you mean?
No, I don't even.
You haven't looked it up yet? You haven't thought about it?
No, I've thought about it. So I have a hard
basically
time.
the hard transition was going from the grippy ass at Assen to Fabio's massive. That bike was giving him so much head, it was crazy.
That was
right
so
on
much transition.
camera.
So much transition. There is I will tell you before we fully get into the head shake, there is nothing that I can think of that causes arm pump more than violent head shake. So for him to actually,
this is what I was thinking, right? This is
finish
what I was
that
thinking.
race.
Like, if he didn't have that head shake and can probably accelerating the fatigue, I don't know. He probably could have eked out a win. I mean, how many times did he have to let off the throttle?
I don't like to go if
losing that much momentum.
He had it. I mean, it's too big of an outlier. If he didn't have a big setup problem, he probably could have won. So could everyone in the top 8.
We're not Cal Crutchlow
Nobody
here.
else was having that much
that.
head shake as he was.
Yeah, but I mean, he clearly had a setup issue involved, and it was exacerbated by something at Assen. But you and your mindless hypotheses questions when there's an actual race to talk about. Like, we had an actual cool race. Maverick won. Fabio got 2 poles in a row. Youngest person ever to get 2 poles in a row. Follows up that win that podium with another podium. And Dennis is like, yeah, that's cool, but what if? What if?
All I'm saying is I don't even know if it was a setup thing because I've never seen anything like. Could a setup be that bad to cause that much head shake?
Yes. We've seen previously, and bad is in quotation marks here, right? Because he was very successful with that exact setup. But we just like we saw it on Marco Melandri last year at Thailand in World Superbike, right? There can be something inherent about a setup that causes head shake. I think one of the main reasons why the team didn't put in maybe a ton of effort to fix this previously, because like working on setup is always a compromise, right? Like if the guy is fast but he just has to be strong enough for the whole race to pull that, like if he is strong enough, then you leave the setup in. But if that setup is too tiring because it causes too much head shake such that he has to roll out, then you end up having to change the setup. But he got that same head shake in qualifying, but still had an amazing qualifying. So obviously the team saw that and they're like, yeah, can you deal with it? And he was like, yeah, probably. And they went with it.
Yeah, sure.
And did deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. But so unfortunately, the thing that changed on Sunday was the wind picked up quite a bit.
Right.
And I think that contributed to the head shake a lot. I mean, actually, Simon was the first one to bring this up on the broadcast, but he essentially thought that there could be a crosswind down that straightaway that just when, it is a drive zone, so the front tire is light, and when the front tire gets loaded just a little bit more, it can, maybe it gets, because of the wind, the front tire gets set down sideways and it causes the head shake to be much more violent. The one thing that I saw that does actually support that is the fact that the head shake changed when Fabio wasn't leading. So when he was actually drafting any of Maverick or Marquez, the head shake was different. Maybe it's because his line changed. Maybe it's because the draft was there affecting the wind. I actually do think someone else did say that. I think it was Fabio that came out and said that once he actually followed Maverick and Marquez through that section, he ended up changing his line and reducing the head shake considerably. So a whole bunch of factors there. But either way, I mean, the kid just got arm pump surgery. He got arm pump surgery at the time they did it specifically to be strong for this race because he knew the Yamaha goes well here. Mm-hmm. And he was successful and got it on the box.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, was the setup bad, or was the compromise of the head shake there what enabled him to get a podium? We saw Morbidelli, did great but didn't get a podium. We saw how terrible Valentino did. But then, despite this massive head shake problem, was it a problem or was it acceptable compromise?
Yeah,
for 90% of the rest of the lap to be amazing.
To see the size of his forearm at the end of the race,
it's pretty intense.
All swollen. I would say that they needed to fix it just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
just
it
back
didn't
it
seem
off
like
there.
much of a compromise. But hey, they were on the podium, so it may have been worth it.
I love how everyone was like making memes about him getting an Olin steering damper. like you haven't seen.
When we all know it's a Scott's damper with the fucking wiper thing, because then it's even the whole time.
No, those things are pieces of shit. They're not pressurized.
I'm going way.
Rotary dampers or pieces of shit?
Rotary dampers are pieces of shit.
Oh,
explain, Rob.
No.
Explain for the masses.
So the GPR damper, the design is inherently flawed. Because
inherently flawed design. I'm so fucking ready to hear Rob talk about this.
This is very
Rob
simple.
has a boner right now. Boner.
He's got
there's
a
That's why he crossed
right
it. That's why he crossed his arms. He's fucking hiding that bone. 6 to 12, dog. Hit me with the inherent flaw.
When fluid heats up, it expands a little bit. And unfortunately, in the GPR damper, there doesn't seem to be any place for that fluid to expand to. So when you leave your damper in the sun, or it gets hot because you're racing and moving fluid heats shit up, it just leaks. And then what happens when it leaks? You now have an air bubble in there, and the air bubble just doesn't cause damping. It just doesn't create damping at all. So you end up with this huge flat spot in the middle of the stroke. There's
nothing worse than that.
No,
there's
nothing
worse when you're fucking all lubed up and there's a flat spot in the middle of the stroke. That is just horseshit.
Well, or there's like a lack of lube in the middle, and then it's just Yeah.
Then there's nothing worse than that.
You don't want that. You don't want that.
No tension, no friction, nothing.
But so you get an Öhlins damper, or you get a MotoGP Öhlins damper, which is even more fancy, and there's a spring pressurized system that allows both the fluid to expand. And when there is an air bubble, because it's pressurized, or if there is an air bubble, because it's pressurized, the air bubble is reduced in size and is less of an issue. There's a reason why I switched to an Öhlins damper last season.
So, GPR/Scott's guys, if you'd like to have a rebuttal about your inherently flawed piece of shit that I wouldn't wipe my ass with because it just get leaky stuff all over my fucking butthole, feel free to come on the show and defend your piece of crap.
It's true. I mean, to be fair, GPR, they do like free rebuilds on their stuff, and they rebuilt the GPR damper that I had twice.
Probably for a reason, but yeah.
Yeah. It was great they did it. I mean, they're in San Diego. It was like a 20-minute drive from my house.
Right.
You can see the Mexican border from their factory.
Boom.
Not that was completely irrelevant.
Irrelevant, right.
I think that was a segue for the Mexican porn.
What? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Speaking of lubed up shit and Mexican porn.
Kev, how did you come across these VHS tapes?
So I went to dump some trash in the morning, opened the dumpster, and there was a giant box of VHS tapes. Now, being a child of the 80s, I instantly was like, oh shit, VHS, there's going to be some gold mine. This is a gold mine. There's going to be some fucking treasure.
Pause real second. Can you describe what a VHS tape is for anyone born after the 2000s that might be listening?
A VHS tape, well, I don't have
he's
one.
pulling one out. He's pulling an exhibit. Oh, this is awesome.
So, fuck, that's like a Betamax.
No,
VHS,
you don't have a Betamax.
Even better. Went too far back in the time machine.
Go get the get the Betamax, get the VHS tape, and Dennis and I will talk for a second. Go get him. Go get him.
I don't have them in the house. Surprisingly, I didn't keep the giant cache of Mexican porn that I found in my dumpster. So
He sold it. Incredible.
clearly,
Yeah.
right. No, what I did do is keep it at work for everyone that buys the next shirt that we release, and instead of a Buster picture, you are getting a copy of Sexy Comedias, which is muy sensuales. That's what I'm talking about. So I opened the dumpster to throw away the morning's trash. Gonna do a little trash around the parking lot, clean the parking lot up, and all that. Because we're right across the street from a pretty popular restaurant, like takeout restaurant, and people eating at night in the parking lot. Soul Food, if you're in Marin. If you're in Marin, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Dennis knows. And I open it. What do I see? It's a giant cardboard box full of VHS tapes. VHS tapes being analog, like magnetic tapes that you have to fast forward and rewind, like a cassette player or a Walkman, which, by the way, turned 40 yesterday. That's how old Walkmans are. I know, right?
Fond memories.
Fucking fond memories, right? And in there are significant numbers of films. I am thinking, oh sweet, I'm gonna find like an awesome copy of like Hard Target, right?
Ooh.
Like Van Damme,
John
Bullet,
Woo, Van Damme,
fucking doves,
slow
crossbows
motion,
and shit. I'm
right?
thinking like Hard Target's gonna be in there, and I wasn't far off because you know what was in there? Cyborg.
I seen that
Van
one.
Damme movie.
I resonated a little bit more with Twister because I watched that movie about 100 times.
So I see Twister, I see Cyborg, and I'm like, oh yeah, I hit the mother load. And oh, do I realize the mother load that I hit when I find 47 unopened copies of Sexy Comedias.
You mean
butchering,
mint condition?
mint condition.
Whoa.
Still in the original packaging, which leads me to believe someone printed these relatively recently, which I don't know if you can do, but I mean, you've got to be able to do it, right?
There's no way.
And so I'm like, what the fuck? So the first thing I do is get it on the gram, right? And I'm like looking through and I'm like, holy shit, this is a giant box of porn, but it's all like Spanish language porn, which is just odd, right? I didn't really realize there was like these separate genres of porns, like sort of. I always thought it was kind of like, I'm like speaking a child of the 80s, right? Like I grew up on South Park in the 90s, and I'm thinking like there's American porn and there's German Scheiser porn because Cartman's mom was in the German Scheiser porn. Which, by the way, wasn't his mom, but was his dad, because Cartman's mom was a hermaphrodite, apparently. Yeah, it was a crazy time in South Park. And so I'm looking through, and there's just porn everywhere. A whole fucking box of porn. And like me, like a dumb shit, I'm just grabbing them and like holding them barehanded. I'm like, yeah, man, what's going on with this one? What's going on with this one? And then this is what I didn't tell you, because we already talked about this on the Facebook group and on Instagram, but what I didn't tell you was giant box of full of porn. What's mostly unopened, but many open porn, and then what is inside mixed in towards the bottom of this giant, mysterious porn pile. But one, no, non-labeled, non-boxed, blank, but with a shitload of film VHS tape.
Homemade?
Homemade.
Whoa.
It's like branded JVC, i.e. they bought it at Walmart and recorded it on themselves.
Yes. And it's one of those ones that doesn't have nearly the amount of tape, right? It's like a 60-minute one. And it's blank. Yeah. And it's mixed in with the porn. and so since I don't have a VCR, it's on my desk, and I'm trying to figure out if we should do like a giveaway or like an unboxing like thing. Like let's like live Facebook, Instagram. Let's see what's on this bad boy. But I'm also kind of like really afraid to do that.
I don't think we can give it away because I feel like that has to be like illegal in some way, just to be like, I don't know what this is.
I feel like its entire contents are illegal.
I think we need to ask Sai as far as what we can legally do with this thing.
We need legal help.
I'm texting him right now. Hey,
right.
Mexican homemade porn video.
Right, exactly.
How can we distribute this?
Yeah, how can we distribute this?
The one thing that I was confused about sexy comedias was is comedias plural or singular?
I don't fuck.
Does anyone speak Spanish here? Because, I mean, I'm the worst quarter Mexican ever. Because if you look real hard on the cover, it's only one chick. Like there's only one sexy
chick.
Yeah.
There's one girl. It's the same girl. She's on the cover like 8 times. I actually think that girl made the drop. Like she tried to be like, I'm gonna sell this shit at the Oakland flea market. It's gonna be epic. Because think about the genius of VHS porn in 2019. Can't trace it. No browser history. No text history. It can't be like taken off of your phone like Amazon and Apple can do, right? Like they can literally remove stuff from your phone or add stuff to your phone. Like it's purely analog and independent. There's no way to trace it outside of its physical embodiment.
Yeah, someone would have to copy it to digital and then distribute it, which if it was amazing, someone would do.
Of course it was amazing. It said muy caliente on the box.
I don't know. Sexy comedian. Sex with her must be a joke. But
I fucking hate you.
So much dad joke. So much dad joke. And on that note.
No,
and it said
so if you have
too.
ideas of what I should do with the mystery tape that was mixed amid the porn, like you let me know. I'm thinking this is like, it can go one of two ways. It's Al Capone's bunker, if you guys remember what that shit was back in the day with Geraldo Rivera, or it's like a Storage Wars. Like that's the show we want to have. Like we want to bid people on it. We want to get like 7 or 8 people on the podcast and just take bids for it. And I'll play like little snippets of it and stuff. It's gonna be good.
I have a VCR.
Yeah, of course you do.
So do Luca's parents, which I suggested before knowing that it was.
Send it to them.
No, either way, send it to me or Dennis. It'll get watched.
Okay.
No, I think we watched the first 5 seconds of it, and then
I don't know, man. The scariest movie I've ever watched is The Ring, and I don't want to pop any random VHS on a VCR player and just start playing. I don't want a crazy thing to walk out of my movie.
That's what you're afraid of, not.
Dude,
Not the person that would throw away 47 copies of Sexy Comedias having recorded their own stuff that might be
This is where I
worse.
know about, like, Dennis is like an innocent little flower, right? Because he's like, oh my God, did you see The Ring? Sarah Michelle Gellar got terrorized. Fucking
Naomi
Buffy,
Watts.
oh my God.
Naomi Watts.
And I'm like, I think I have a snuff film. Right? Like, Dennis is like, wouldn't that be horrible if that scary girl came out and she cursed us for 7 days? And I'm like, have y'all seen 8mm with Nicolas Cage? There's some fucked up shit going on down there, and I accidentally came into possession of this shit.
Actually, I did watch that movie, yeah.
It was a good movie, but we should really change the subject now.
I'm just saying, Dennis is such an innocent, he's a delicate
really
little
is.
flower. Look at that smile.
I'm too wholesome for you two.
He's quite wholesome. It's ridiculous. All right. We're moving on to my MotoE preview because
Rob found.
I read the rule book.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Which you
he
are
just
not,
dropped the mic.
which no one is surprised that I read the rule book.
Not
there
even
was
a little.
There was some talk that like people wanted me to read the rule book about like Rossi not getting a penalty and Jorge not getting a penalty for taking people out, and like that doesn't really matter that much. All that falls under the whole rule that just says you have to ride safely, and if you don't, we can do whatever the hell we want. That's the rule based on that. I can quote you the number if you really wanted me to, the regulation number. We're not going to do that.
I believe you.
Thank you. We're not going to talk about that because it happened and we're over it. What we are going to talk about is how MotoE is looking to change the game. I think MotoE coming in here is another CRT sort of move, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. There are two things.
Hit me with it. Hit me with it. Hot take.
Rob's
Rob's
there are two
hot
things
takes.
that MotoE is doing differently during the race weekend that GP has never done before. One of them, World Superbike has kind of done before, which gives you a hint. The other one, no one has ever done it before.
Okay.
First one.
Groundbreaking.
E-pole. So, yeah, this is a little weird. E-pole is essentially the OG super pole. So if you remember from World Superbike, God, how long has it been since World Superbike has done super pole?
Probably 12, 13 years ago.
It's been
OG super pole was good though.
It's been a very long time. So essentially, all the riders in MotoE are going to take to the track one at a time to set their pole lap.
Oh, I love that.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, it's good because we miss it from World
Remember that
Superbike.
crazy ramp? Like they went through that thing. You know what I mean? It was like they had like a little like a reveal, like an entryway. You know, it was wild back in the day.
Like the hockey team, like coming out and making it onto the ice. Like the sharks come out under the big shark. Yeah. Everett's not here. I'm talking to the wrong people.
Right.
But okay. So Super Pole is back. OG Super Pole is back. And this is kind of bucking the trend that we've been seeing in World Superbike and in GP and all the other classes, because all of the classes now have a Q1 and a Q2. It's a great way to have things be more exciting while also giving more practice time for the teams. Right. And honestly, I love Q1 and Q2. It's just enough build up, like frees up the track, does great. What E-Pole is doing is actually kind of comparable to what Formula E is doing, and it's essentially just bucking the trend. It's showing like, hey, like yes, E-Pole is OG Super Pole. It happened 10 years ago, but they're bucking the trend of where all the petrol-powered motorsports has been going, and they're doing something different.
It's interesting that MotoE is supposed to be like at the forefront of bringing the sport to the future, but they're actually adopting something that existed over a decade. It's kind of like a nice little clash of eras.
It is, and I do wonder if people said that about Formula E. Formula E does the same thing for their top 6 qualifiers. Like they all do a qualifying session that's formatted differently that I'm not going to go into. Even though I really want to. But then their top 6, they do exactly that. Everyone gets one lap. So you get your warm-up lap, you get your hot lap, and you have to come in after that. The one interesting thing, though, too, is the pit lane is open for the riders during their E-pole for 5 seconds.
What does that mean?
Well, so remember like a couple years ago in Moto2 when they instituted the quick start procedure and pit lane was open for 1 minute, and then if you didn't make it out in that 1 minute, you had to start at the back. Okay. Same thing with this E-pole, right? You get a signal, like you as a rider, you get a 40-second signal, and then at 30 seconds a timer counts down. And once the timer counts down, pit lane is open, and it's only open for 5 seconds. If you miss it, you start at the back of the grid. Like
so weird. What?
Your pole, like you don't get to go out.
Right, because it's a show. Like the part of what Super Pole and those laps is it was like it's taking the aspects of time trial to improve the show from a television point of view. It adds a little tension, a little nuance. Can he make it? Do that? It gives all of the teams and their sponsors sort of equal television time. So it's a time period where, we made those jokes about they talk about Marquez so much, but in a sense, Repsol Honda pays a shitload of money to make sure that their fucking guy wins races and is shown winning races. That's why they always cut to the guys crossing the finish line, man. You do not kick down $50 million a year or whatever, $10 million a year to not get shown when your bike crosses the finish line. But that does hurt teams in the backfield who theoretically are more hurting for groups of sponsors that need that television time. I mean, Eventia
they're the ones
is
that
not
need it more because
they're the
they
ones
don't
who
have
need
the
it.
money.
Correct, because they don't have the money and they don't have the marketing behind that, right? Like Repsol has a whole marketing machine behind it. Those guys are winning races. So what MotoE is doing with Superpole and what Superpole was really good for a while, and we're talking about the traditional Superpole or what they now call E-Pole, is that all the teams are getting, like in a sense, an equal representation of their sponsors, of their riders, of their livery, so to speak, because, like, again, it's intelligent because they need to build this. This is trying to reinvent the sport, so to speak, from the ground up. So they're taking aspects that they think worked best for attracting sponsors and putting it towards the series. I think it's great personally, and I think this is something we need to get to know. You need to get to know these bikes. You need to get to know, like, conceptually electronic-based racing, battery racing.
Electric.
Not electronic. Electric, she's been electronic. I had a little bit of wine. Give me some shit. Electric racing, battery-powered racing. Exactly. And what this does is gets you kind of up close and intimate with all of the teams, all of the riders, and the nature of the bike right there and then. I think it's a great move, personally.
Yeah, so the order of E-Pole is backwards order from free practice, so the fastest rider goes last. Of course. Again, it is going to build hype a little bit, right? Because one, you're kind of like, you're wanting to see the people at the end, but you'll sit through the guys at the beginning. Two, like, it makes it more likely that the time will be broken consistently, right? Because you don't want to see the first guy.
You don't want to see Stoner in 2010 go out and run one lap first.
Yeah.
No one's going to beat it. It takes all the hype out of it.
Exactly.
Oh,
right?
I love that.
You want to, like, honestly, people are probably going to want, like, Bradley and Gibernau and Tooley and stuff to go last and beat whatever pole time is. Like, there are a couple of riders that have good pedigrees and are going to be, are previously successful in this class, which we'll get to in a little bit after I make my second point. But yeah, so E-Pole, it's returning to something that we've known before. However, all the young people that may be watching MotoE probably have never seen Superpole before, so it could be something new for them. As Kev says, it is a good marketing opportunity for all of the teams. Go ahead, Kev.
So I wanted to bring up something real quick about because you mentioned the young people. So there's been talk about, but if there's no noise, I don't like it, and if this and that, I don't like it, and in traditional fans, quote unquote, or whatever, aren't going to like it. But when you look at the demographics of Formula E, because that's really the closest thing we have to it, what they're finding with Formula E is attracting a unique group of people who otherwise don't watch Formula One. Not taking fans and bringing them over, but actually attracting an entirely new demographic of fans. Fans who otherwise were not motorsport fans, or fans who otherwise weren't Formula 1, 2, or 3 fans being attracted to MotoE. So yes, there is crossover demographic, but one of the things that they're doing is they're actually attracting a large percentage of their fan base for Formula E as wholly new to motorsports. And I think that taking things like this, like what worked tried and true, or what really put on a show, and doing taking different puzzle pieces, so to speak, to create this new thing. It's a great idea, because this is something that a lot of newer fans that have watched it over 1, 2, or 3 years don't remember. So it's fucking crazy and new and hip, and it's fun. It takes certain aspects of time trial racing, or the things that we like to see in other aspects, and it connects it to it. One of the things I really like about this, before I go, is the time trial aspect of the E-Pole, and what makes the focus on a singular bike for whole laps at a time is essentially a live action video game. When you play MotoGP night 2019, 2018, what are you doing? You're watching the whole race from on your television, which is the noise associated is quite different, and you're watching it from a singular viewpoint the entire time. And you see that I think that what they're really trying to do here is connect you individually to the bike and the series itself.
There are so many talking points there. No, the video game thing, I'm glad you even said that word, because that's exactly what Formula E has been doing, right? They have there are so many new things in that category, like the fan boost, and the drivers have to take the extra little lap portion. Like everything is practically straight out of what Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, like all the video games racing video games, even Mario Kart that you've played over the years. And it really is. It's attracting a different demographic, and generally the new demographic is on average younger than the previous demographic.
Right.
And that can never be a bad thing, right? If MotoE can do even half what Formula E is doing over there, the series will be successful. Like, it's not going to replace petrol racing anytime soon, in any shape or form, but it can add to it, right? Because Formula E does not happen the same weekend that Formula One does, right? They're on completely different circuits, so they're actually they're gaining new fans, but you're kind of just hoping that maybe those fans watch Formula One. But with MotoE, it's in the same weekend at the same exact tracks, right? They're going to race on Sunday just as well. They're going to qualify on Saturday. So if that stuff can happen, so if new fans go to watch that, they're going to be at the same event as the GP races, and now you've just added to the entire series.
And I think it is in very much a proof of concept. I think you just said Europe had the biggest heat wave in forever and yada yada yada. Without going into politics, we do have some climate change stuff that needs to be addressed at some point. And Rob and I have said this. I think within my lifetime, like internal combustion based racing on the international circuit won't exist.
Yeah. It's reasonably possible. Like,
I think it's
probable.
Significantly probable, I believe. You may still see it in national circuits, local circuits. I don't think it's going to die out anytime soon, but I think that when you look at the people and you look at what supports the international racing, you're talking about major brands. And you're already seeing the changeover. You're already seeing the shift. It's going to happen quicker than anyone thinks. And I think that what they're doing right now is laying the groundwork for that. Like, testing, they're ahead of the curve, so to speak. I mean, I remember years ago reading in Road Racing World about like Honda sort of jokingly claimed that like downhill mountain biking is what's going to replace like MotoGP at some point, right? Because because the era of the internal combustion engine will be done within like our lifetime, or like my nieces and nephews' lifetime, from a major investment point of view. And for me, what they're doing, the reason they're having it at the same circuit is they are normalizing it. They are doing two things. They're attempting to attract a whole new demographic of fans that may not actually be MotoGP fans or otherwise, but they're also normalizing it among other fans, and they're getting those teams connected to it. Look at the teams that are running. They're getting everything used to it. Like this Energetica, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. You probably know. Like, is it like the most cutting edge race bike of all time? It's got a trellis frame. You can ask Rob how you think about that.
It's the most cutting edge electric motorcycle.
Right, but how quickly is that going to change once like the foothold of the series takes place?
Oh, I mean, the second they race it, it's already out of date anyway.
Right, so, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of like prototype racing, right? The second you race it, you had to have already started working on the next big thing. But even in electric racing, things are going to move considerably faster with everything that can be improved. Like the technology is such in its infancy right now that there are so many things to work on. Like I won't be surprised if in 3 years the bikes are comparable weight to Moto2 machines and just as fast, if not faster, but probably not over as long of a race distance. I won't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can believe that because, you know, with anything in its infancy, it's easier to make big strides.
Yeah,
right? It's when you kind of get closer to like the optimal point where it gets harder and harder to actually make it. So I could believe that.
Unless you're Aprilia MotoGP.
Correct.
No, a few more things in there. Wait, what did you say? Oh, one cool thing about bringing like OG Super Pole back is I'm totally fine if they just switch it up every 10 years. Like just to keep it interesting, you know? So say in like another 3 years, like let's keep Q1, but then Q2 will be OG Super Pole.
Right.
And then 10 years
Continue
later
to refine it.
Well, no, just change it. Just it, like it's qualifying. It doesn't need to be exactly the same all the time. It's not you know, you don't win points for it. Right? Just change it, make it more exciting. And then change it back 10 years after that. Make it exciting again.
You don't win points for it until you have a Super Pole race like Superbike right now.
Oh God, don't get me started on that one.
Or you were AMA's old rule where you did win points, and that's why Ben Spies beat Matt Mladen, even though Matt Mladen was somehow able to break the record for most race wins in a season. He won by 1 point because he had more pole positions.
That was some service there, Kev, wasn't it?
I was gonna say, like, there goes Kevin again, making me jealous.
One other thing too, you brought up. I don't know. You just brought up trying to make a shift with MotoE. Another funny thing that I found in here is that they're not using generators on the grid, or at least they're not called generators. They're called the MotoE charging station. And you have to plug your tire warmers into those. So I don't know if it's like a big bank of batteries or capacitors or something, or if there's gonna be a generator in there, right? Because you can't, like the generator that I have for my tire warmers, you can't charge a MotoE bike off of that. It just doesn't work. Right. But so, I mean, maybe it won't be a generator. Maybe they're trying to push for seem to be more green, right? Because it'd be kind of silly to have, you know, generators sitting there next to the electric motorcycle.
Right. It's like that meme that I saw with a Tesla plugged into a generator. It's like a vegan eating meat.
Yeah, the optics are a bit off.
I saw that one today too. Even though most of your electricity comes from
diesel,
right?
From natural gas probably these days, unless you live in like Norway. Okay. No, my other thing that is completely different about MotoE, which you might be confused about if you actually watch the full broadcast, there is no warm-up lap.
What?
There's no warm-up lap. They do the sighting lap. They get like the whole, like, you know, they get the 12-minute board. The race start procedure is 12 minutes. So pit lane is open for like 3 minutes. They go out for their sighting lap. They come up to the grid. The teams have the MotoE charging station there, the tire warmers, the umbrella girl or the umbrella boy, the whole shebang. They can, you know, they're allowed to charge the motorcycles after the sighting lap, which is solid. They can do everything that MotoGP and Moto2 can do, all that stuff. They can change springs, they can change tires, they can do whatever they want on the grid. And then they do the start procedure. And everyone gets off the grid. The guy in the front has his red flag. He walks off. They turn the lights on and they start the race.
Boom.
Nice. Warm-up laps are overrated anyway. It takes me like half a lap to warm up my tires from the pit lane. That's fine.
Is that before or after you crashed and made it on our YouTube page?
All the sacrifice I have to do for the YouTube channel. No, listen.
I feel like that's a mistake. Like if you go back to like 1973, there was y'all remember dust spin fairings? Of course you don't remember it because they were dead 30 years before any of us were born. Yeah, but there was a single year where they didn't put it in the rule book. Like the rule book had, and someone old school is going to know what I'm talking about, and they're going to know the year and post about it. But there was like a single year. I think Keith Code's book talks about it as well. If you guys know what book I'm talking about.
Twist of the Wrist.
Boom. Where they forgot to have it in it. Like there was a misprint.
What
there was a
decade?
misprint. We're talking about like the late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
But what I mean is for one race, Kawasaki showed up with like a full dustbin. Like shlabam, the wheel was covered, right? Like a straight up dustbin fairing. And they're like, you can't have that. And then they dropped the show me the rule book, and it wasn't in the rule book. Like someone fucked up. So they amended, but they raced like a dustbin fairing. Those ones where you're biking at like 80 horsepower and go 190. You know what I mean? Like as long as you did not turn at all, because you would take off.
No
like,
crosswinds allowed.
No crosswinds allowed, right? You would talk about head shake with Fabio. But I feel like the no warm-up lap is like an accident. Like, I don't quite believe you.
No, they're definitely doing it on purpose.
All right. Explain how.
Well, no, I mean, I'll explain why. Because it's an electric motorcycle, and a warm-up lap detracts from the energy in the batteries, and you can't have as far of a race.
It is superfluous. You do not need that.
Yeah, so
I don't know. I mean, they have to incorporate some kind of a discipline or strategy now to not crash on cold tires at the start of the race. I mean, I don't mind it, I guess.
Yeah, so the first half lap will probably be a little interesting, because all these riders that are going into MotoE are not previously electric motorcycle racers.
Right.
I wonder how many of them have ever done a race without a warm-up lap. I've never done a race without a warm-up lap.
Right, I was gonna say.
I've done the grid and go a few times, or like the quick start procedure, where your warm-up lap is you leave the pits to your grid spot, and that was your warm-up lap. But still, you go ham for that warm-up lap to make sure that your tires are hot.
Well, I mean, so I guess this is their way of keeping the grid close instead of having somebody potentially run away at like the opening lap.
Yeah, I don't know what it's really going to do to the racing kind of over race distance. I mean, and I know that I did say at the beginning this is something that's going to separate them, and they're kind of doing it on purpose. And now I've just told you that I've seen right through them, and they're doing it just for battery life.
Right.
But no, it's weird. It's going to throw a bunch of people off. And I'm totally fine with that. Like in motorsports especially, we have this battle between let's do new things to keep the sport alive and to make it exciting, and all the traditionalists like yelling at us to get off their lawn.
Right.
So
big time.
Yeah, so this is going to be one of those things where we all go like, oh, that was kind of weird, but
you'd be like, oh, electric cars are cool, but if you can't charge them and you can only go 5 fucking miles, no one wants that. Okay, why don't we invest a race series to increase efficiency and performance and then improve that? Dude, it's stupid.
They don't make any noise.
They don't make any noise. It's like when it's like at Jerez when they had a fire and it burned down. Literally, the internet was like, see, you can't have fucking batteries. It was the batteries. Every armchair expert in the world was instantaneously convinced that it was the batteries are what burned it down, and that's why it's unsafe. Because, gasoline's never caught on fire before.
Never exploded.
Never once has gasoline exploded. It doesn't
explode 16,000 times a minute in my R6 down the straight.
Right. Right. There's a group of people that sort of effectively want it to fail because they don't like change.
And I don't want them watching. Like, just go away.
Yeah, you shouldn't die.
Like, I won't go that far. We're going to find out what's on that tape. And no, never mind.
No, listen, the no warm-up lap.
If there's people eating shit on that tape, I'm going to have a problem.
The no warm-up lap, what I like about it is that nobody's done it before, so nobody can really say that it's not going to work. We're just going to have to wait and see.
I think there'll be like a little higher occurrence of crashes on the first lap, maybe for the first race, maybe the
100% torque
races.
right off the bat, and no warm-up lap is going to be the shit.
Well, but the bikes are heavier and there's more torque, so the tires will heat up faster.
Boom.
Yeah. Right?
I don't know. I mean, I'm down with them.
This is why I can heat up my tires within half a lap, because I'm heavier than like half of the MotoGP grid. You know what I mean?
Half?
Probably 3/4. I don't know.
What are you weighing right now, dog?
Yeah, in
190.
kilograms.
Weigh off real quick. What you weigh?
I've let
What
myself
you weigh?
go.
What you
190.
weigh?
Wait.
190. Rob, what you weigh?
137.
Woo!
Wait, Dennis. So you're 180?
190.
Oh, there is no MotoGP racer that's heavier than you. I'm sorry.
Exactly. That's why I don't need no fucking warm-up lap.
Boom.
Like, I even wonder if like Loris Baz is pushing that. It says
No, I
79. The internet says 79 kilos, so he's 175. Loris Baz, Chaz Davis.
I'm a little
Yeah.
north of that.
You guys just, you do you. That's all.
Damn right.
That's all that matters.
That's the title of my sex
Damn right. I do me. That's a fucking nightly sex tape. That's how I roll.
tape. Word.
Oh man. All right. Well, okay. I hope that you've got a good little intro to MotoE there. Actually, there's one little part that we should probably talk about, and
About
it's-
MotoE?
Yeah, it's the riders.
All right. Yeah.
So we've got a huge mix here of everyone under the sun. We've got
Right.
the old fogey in Sete Gibernau.
Sete Gibernau.
We've got like MotoGP test rider Baldy McBaldy in Bradley Smith.
Who's going to win the championship?
As long as he doesn't like screw it up.
Yeah, he's a clear favorite.
Yeah. We've got World Super Sport race winner Nicky Tully. Wait, did he actually win a race in
Super Sport? No.
did he everyone was like, "Oh, he's totally going to." I can't spell his name
Keep
correctly. Yeah, he won a race in 2017.
TUULI.
No, he got it. He won at France in 2017. So we're good there. Let's see, who else? Mike DeMeglio, ex-125 CC champion, if I'm not mistaken.
And he was Aprilia's test rider before Bradley Smith took it over.
Yep. Randy DePunier, MotoGP racer, test rider, Playboy. Nicolo Canepa needed a really good lawyer at one time.
Right, but also pretty successful in world endurance.
Super successful in world endurance.
Right. Yeah, more than pretty. Right.
Oh, snap. So Sachsenring is the first round?
Yep. Yeah, so they're running 6 races.
Nice.
They're doing Sachsenring. Where'd that calendar go?
Sachsenring, Red Bull Ring, San Marino.
Austria. And then and then they're doing a double header
Valencia.
in Misano and a double header at Valencia.
Yeah.
So
Can
racing
I make
Saturday
a quick
and Sunday.
comment on? Not a quick. I want to do a bit of a rant-esque thing about the biggest criticism of MotoE and how I think it's actually like its biggest strength.
Hold on, one real fast. Let me list like 5 more
Yeah.
people.
Boom.
DeAngelis, which is kind of surprising
Alex
to me.
DeAngelis, right?
Salvadori, who we know from World Superbike. I already said Gibernau. Nico Tirol, who from the GP paddock. And then an
Moto2 race
interesting-
winner.
Yep. And then a very interesting one who didn't actually do well in preseason testing, what limited time they had, Maria Herrera.
Interesting.
World Super Sport 300 successful racer. I really hope that she brings something really good to this championship.
Me
Like,
too.
I mean, it's a fucking motorcycle. She's got it. But
Talk
obviously
about her,
the people that she's competing against have tremendously more experience than she does on
Yeah,
many
those
different
names I still
motorcycles.
recognize, even though I haven't heard them in a while.
Yeah.
The DeAngelis,
I mean,
Salvadori.
do you remember who Eric Granado is?
That one I don't, actually.
All right. Well, he was in the GP paddock last year and the year before. Actually, pretty much everyone else. Yeah. Kev, tell us what their strength is.
So the biggest thing I always hear is like, there's no sound, there's no rumble, there's no roar, and all that. And Rob's laughing, but I think it's legitimate concern when it comes to this show, right? Like, it's not visceral, it's not there. But I think that motorcyclists in the 21st century need to have a slight bit of like a come to Jesus moment for a minute and understand that like the noise associated with motorcycles is theoretically one of its biggest threats. So I've talked about this before, but I think that the wave of the future for trials and dirt bikes is electric.
Oh, for sure.
Because 4-stroke engines the nature of the sound waves, so the low pitch, low frequency sound, or the low frequency sound waves travel farther and cause problems. We're talking about Laguna Seca in 10 days. What's the biggest problem with running track days at Laguna? Sound. What's the reason that most people can't afford to go to Laguna to ride track days? Because the days are hell limited, they're way more expensive, and they're limited because sound decibel limits.
Just a little more background on that. The people that built their houses around the racetrack got really pissed off at the sound, and
that they moved into.
And were successful in their, I don't know, lobbying, litigation, something. And there are strict sound regulations at Laguna Seca such that the motorcycles can't be very loud. So if you don't have a stock exhaust on your bike, you likely can't ride at Laguna Seca.
Right. And if you don't think that is already a problem with OHV parks for
dirt bikes,
and I consider trials bikes part of this too. A number of motocross tracks, especially local tracks where they're in areas. So one of the things that's happening is humans are increasingly urbanizing, right? You see, I think for the first time in 2017, 50% of the population live in urban environments. 50% of the population live in insanely noisy places. People are not super stoked on noise in a way that they used to be. This is not East Oregon with the good old boys ripping fucking laps on our dirt track because there's no one around, right? This isn't in Alabama or Kentucky or fucking out in Sunnyvale, right? Riding, XR100s with fucking open headers because no one cares because there's no one around. Most people, noise pollution is a real problem in many people's lives. People are on ragged edge. They're stressed. They're nervous about things all the time, and that adds to it. And I think that there needs to be some of a bit, I made that joke like a come to Jesus moment, but like there needs to be a realization that thing that we think is so cool, and don't get me wrong, it is. Fucking the Ducati. I mean, you've seen Kyle post his videos. That fucking V4 ripped open. It's dope. I am not trying to talk about that. Like a great sounding motorcycle isn't one of the fucking finer things in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I was 19 years old with a 900 SS, and I popped the pop rivets out of the back of those cans, took all the packing out, put it back in because I couldn't afford new exhaust, but I could fucking gut it with a Sawzall.
That's half the reason I bought this R1 is because the cross-plane sound is just oral sex, AURAL.
I love how the butt dyno is directly related to your ears.
Yeah, right, and that's great, but we have to realize that there's a lot more other things that are great about motorcycles than just what they sound like, but what they sound like might be the greatest threat to sport motorcycling. Yeah, right. Like they make like, oh, loud fucking engines save lives. It's not really. Loud engines alienates everyone. There's not anyone alive. Like the only person that thinks your loud ass Harley with open fucking headers sounds dope is the guy on it. Everyone else fucking hates you, and they hate you. No one likes that. Like there needs to be an understanding that noise that we like so much actually is kind of it's like a double-edged sword. It could be technically our biggest enemy. And I don't think that to enjoy the sport of motorcycling, it's required. But I do think that sound in the next 50 years could be what stops many people from enjoying the sport of motorcycling simply because the restrictions that it's going to impose. There's going to be motocross tracks. I mean, everyone gets into MotoGP. I mean, you talk about how many of the American history of MotoGP riders were dudes who came up on dirt tracks. Marquez, that whole crew, they're all riding dirt track. Dirt track motocross is the bread and butter of kids getting started. And if there's nowhere that you can ride a fucking bike except for like rich assholes who can take their kids to full on tracks all the time like that, like you're never going to get the grassroots started. You have to be able to like slam your fucking 6-year-old on a little PW80 and have him spin laps. 20 years ago you did that in the fucking backyard. You can't do that anymore for a variety of reasons.
I totally did that in the backyard, and the neighbors came over and asked me to wait a couple hours because it was too early in the morning.
Right.
Because it was too loud.
But it was too loud, right? But if it was electric, you have a whole different ball game.
Well, and that is already happening. There's a company called like OSET or OSET that makes electric trials bikes for kids. And if you want something for your kid to ride literally in the backyard, that's what you get. Because you've now introduced them to motorcycles. You're not pissing anyone off. There's no freaking pollution. There's no noise pollution. There's no environmental pollution. Like you put a helmet on them, they hurt themselves. All that great stuff that we love about motorcycling.
Here's what I think about the lack of sound argument against electric motorsports. Like, I get it. You know, when you're seeing the race in person, that sound actually adds that extra dimension of the whole thrill of the sport. But most of the motorsport fans watch these racing on their TV, and you hardly ever hear the sound, if ever, because all you're hearing is the commentators anyway. So the lack of sound in MotoE when you're watching it, when you've been watching on TV, not going to make a difference. And
I think that if you talk about like the experience in person, you have to understand that even the most diehard, and now in Europe it's a little bit different, but because mass transit allows you to kind of bounce around a little bit easier. But the average hardcore fan in Australia, in America, in South America, and much of Europe, in Asia, in Malaysia, the most die-hard fucking fans are going to one race a year out of 18 races. Yeah. Maybe 2.
Yeah.
Some people are hitting 3 or 4 when they're in Spain. Or they're in Western Europe and they can make use of an elaborate public transportation system to get to a lot of it. But most of the fans worldwide, especially in the emerging markets that are so integral to this, are that. And the other problem with those same emerging markets that are desperately important to these series is like pollution's a real problem. You look in a lot of, we're trying to expand into Southeast Asia, into Malaysia, into a great number of areas, which is dope and all of that. But we're talking about areas that have serious problems with pollution that need to be addressed and rectified, and a shitload of 12-year-olds on electric bikes with Maverick Vinales' 12 and Mark Marquez's 93 on the front is so good for MotoGP overall.
Well, and for their environment there too.
Right. That's what I mean. Right.
As long as they're not burning coal to produce the electricity to power those motorcycles.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I feel like this has been such a wholesome talk. We got to bring back the Mexican porn talk.
That's right. Exactly.
We already no, we already did that. Well, the thing too with the
who doesn't want to listen to a big giant logoed up dildo spin around the track? Because that's what it's gonna sound like a big electric dildo, like. And you're just hearing the traction of the rubber.
We don't know if that's true because we haven't seen them on track yet, but that might be true. No,
we've seen them on track. They did their mock race. They showed laps.
I've seen some.
They sound like fucking TIE fighters. I wouldn't say this in person. It might be underwhelming, but on television, it's kind of interesting. It's like it doesn't kind of sound like TIE fighters flying around.
Yeah, Rob, I don't know if you remember, but before MotoE, for a few years ago, MotoGP actually had a support class of electric motorcycles, like the Moto Cheese. Actually, it was an electric motorcycle. Do you remember that?
I have no idea what you're talking
or whatever.
About. Yeah.
Wait, that wasn't support class. That's just like they would show up and do demo laps?
No, they had a little race. Shalina won, or Shalina got like third. She was like the first woman in however long to like get at an AMA. Eric Bostrom won a bunch of the races on that, and that was sort of the problem that. Because I hear a lot of people talk about, it was so dumb, they were on and the races were boring. Well, no shit. You had Eric Bostrom and then a whole bunch of nobodies.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And they weren't racing the same motorcycle. It was
exactly.
But there was a $2 million electric bike versus the dude that built it in his garage.
But the disparity of talent is huge. I don't care if you put Sete Gibernau on a bike and you put Robert fucking W. Pierce on the bike. I mean, I love you, Rob, but I think Sete has a little bit of pace on you. So it's not just a little bit.
At least 4%, which will make the race not very interesting.
Right. So what I do like is that we, as we just talked over, we do have the tip of the talent in MotoE so far. I think is going to be good enough to keep the thing interesting.
I'm going to round out the sound point with one little thing here. In my opinion, motorcycles are they're exciting because they're motorcycles. They're not exciting because they're loud.
Yes.
Right. The motorcycle comes first. The noise is just like a cherry on top. Yeah, with MotoE, we're losing the cherry. But
Tell
there's
me more about when you lost your
Title of Rob's very, very first sex tape.
but there's a whole lot more to be excited about with that. All right, don't get stuck on the fact that we're losing the sound, the amazing sound you get out of a Ducati, and we're getting electric bikes. And and don't get me wrong, these bikes are going to be louder. They're probably going to be louder than
They're going to have sound. Yeah.
a bunch of street motorcycles. They're not
I was
going
gonna
to be
say the
silent.
last time I watched a GP race, yeah, it was loud, but I wasn't like amazed at how loud it was. I was amazed at what they were doing on that motorcycle, what that motorcycle
Last year at
can do.
Laguna, when Chaz flew by in the grandstands, I was like, all right, it's kind of too loud. Fuck. Enough already. Yeah. I was like, God damn, man. It's like hurting my chest.
I mean,
Yeah, it isn't the noise that they make; it's what they do. It's what they show you, that they can do on the bike. Really, that makes motorcycling exciting.
and I think that's true of a lot of our fans too, because if you're a hardcore GP fan, you're listening to this, not if you're just someone that likes the sound.
Except for BrotoGP fans, because they're not in it for the way we look. They're in it for how we sound.
Oh,
Bullshit. Have you
damn.
seen how I look?
That's my point.
I'm a handsome motherfucker.
You haven't even shown them your jorts yet.
My jorts are good.
Oh man. I actually don't even think we need to cover Johan Zarco very much here. It was the last point that we were going to talk about. If you didn't realize from the race, he kind of just gave up. He came into the pits and KTM
And
was like,
instantly, fucking instantly, he's like, so this is Simon here. I just want to say that Johan came in and it was for not technical reasons. Like, KTM threw him under the bus instantly. He rolled in, got off the bike. The mechanic looked at it and went, yo, man, this thing is fine. And the guy behind him was like, this motherfucker. And he's like, yo, Simon, over here. He didn't come in for shit, son. Like, let me tell you that right now. Like, that they threw him under the bus. I mean, has a relationship ever gone as south as fast as we are seeing right now? Like, it's more dramatic than like Cal and Ducati when Gigi showed up, because he never really wanted him to begin with. He kind of got handed Cal. But
there
like,
has to be another one. There has to be. Like, I was thinking Cal as well, but no, Cal was a little slower.
Well, you guys don't think this is like Maverick pouting off during his Moto3 days?
no, Maverick pouted off, took his ball and went home, and then when he got what he wanted, he won the championship.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not going to happen with Zarco.
right. It's just like, I don't know. Like, maybe he's pouting. I mean, the bike is just so much worse than anticipated, I think. You know,
Well,
like, I remember
it's just so different than he anticipated.
Right.
Like, even Pole this weekend, because of his injuries, said that he needed to ride the KTM like the Yamaha, and you can see how successful he was with that.
right, or lack thereof. Right.
Exactly. So like, if Marquez got on the KTM, it would be considerably faster than with any of their current riders. I believe that 100%. And they built a Honda replica. I don't know why. Like, so I heard one thing a couple of weeks ago that they initially, when they started in GP, they had a Screamer engine. So if you don't know, the Screamer engine, essentially all four pistons fire
Individually.
Well, they fire individually and they fire equal spacing, right? So like
Correct.
over 2 revolutions, it's they fire equally over those 2 revolutions. Pretty much everyone else in MotoGP is running unequal spacing. So maybe they'll have 2 pistons fire at the same time, and then they'll wait a little bit. They have 2 more. Maybe they'll do 1, 2, 3 real fast, and then they'll do another one. Something crazy going on.
And if you're a newer fan, that was more apparent in the early days of GP, and also when McDoohan was racing, the uneven firing order allows for increased mechanical grip in the tire. You sacrifice a bit of of the top end power of the Screamer engine gives you, but the benefit is an increase in mechanical grip, which is just the nature of the tire, right?
Yeah, so supposedly,
if you're a newer fan, which we have a lot of, you may not remember those days when the talk of, oh man, Yamaha switched over to the uneven firing order, which gave them increased grip. Kawasaki was running a Screamer,
and then
things like that. Or
did Cowie ever switch to the Big Bang? I don't remember, but even there,
I don't remember.
But the ZX-10R has an uneven firing order. Like
now it does, right?
And
it's commonplace.
The crossplane R1, same thing. The reason why the R1 sounds so much different from the Kawasaki and all the other production bikes is because the firing orders are different.
Right.
KTM.
You don't want me to fire it up?
Yeah,
almost,
exactly.
Almost. Just no. Everyone's gonna think you turned the washing machine back on. No, I shouldn't insult your motorcycle like that. That was mean. No, the reason why I bring it up is so KTM started in GP with the Screamer. They tested out the Big Bang engine or the uneven firing engine, and it didn't do squat because they were so slow. Right. So at some point, like, you have to be pushing the limit so hard to notice the benefits of these little changes. Right. They're now at the point where they have switched. I'm pretty sure they've switched the uneven firing order. They produced a new chassis with a carbon fiber swing arm. Like, even those things probably wouldn't have done squat 2 years ago when they were coming into GP, but now that they're getting closer and closer to the front of the group, all this stuff matters, right? Little changes now. That's what Zarco and Pole and all them are fighting for. Little tiny changes out of the factory. And the problem is KTM probably doesn't know what to do until they make it and someone tests it.
Right.
So it's an uphill battle for them here, and and they may get stalled out like Aprilia. They may have a good run of 2 years like Suzuki. They've got the money, so I would hope that they kind of go like Suzuki.
Yeah, me too.
But back to your original question.
If you're even more old school, you remember in the mid-'90s when McDoohan had the Big Bang engine on the two-stroke, and then they gave it to the other Honda riders, which made him mad. So he switched back to the Screamer because the Screamer had more power, and he was able to win on that Screamer because he was so much more talented, until they did away with leaded gas, which took the little edge off of the horsepower, and then he had to go back to that as well. So just kind of throwing that out there because it's a fun little tidbit.
Oh, I don't even remember the switch
That's
from leaded to unleaded gas.
Yeah, because that's how I go back way, dog. Y'all people wonder why I remember weird shit off the top of my head, but I remember the switch from fucking leaded to unleaded gas.
God, I kind of assumed that they had used leaded gas still. I kind of assumed that.
They had leaded gas, and then McDoohan actually went to the Screamer because he was the only one that was talented enough and ballsy enough to run the Screamer and deal with the fact that it's shortcomings traction wise because of the extra power again. But then when they went away from leaded gas, that kind of like neutered the Screamer, so to speak, because the lack of leaded gas meant didn't run quite as clean and make quite as much power.
Man, there are track day guys still running leaded gas. They got to get with the times. They need an electric bike.
Because fuck the environment, right? because I want to be in B group at Thunderhill running 212s and think I'm dope.
Actually, I'm not entirely sure if MR12 is leaded, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Right.
Dennis, do you know?
I have no idea.
Whatever. If you got some race gas, don't smell that shit. One, you'll like it, and two, it probably killed a shit ton of brain cells.
Don't eat the
so
paint
glorious.
chips of your fucking house either if it was made before 1970.
That's like my cheat meal, yo.
That's
paint
terrible.
chips are your cheat meal?
All right.
Nice.
I'm going to go with no. I can't currently think of a relationship that has disintegrated faster. I don't think that he's going to leave at the end of this season. I think they'll tough it out for next year.
There's nowhere for him to go.
But like anytime something like this happens, or like even Rossi taking out Nakagami, everyone's like, oh, is he going to get out of his contract and not race next year? Like, Rossi's washed up. Zarco's pissed off at KTM. They're going to bounce. I'm like, nope.
Right. The reason Sam Lowe's getting sacked a year early was such a big deal is because you're really not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Like it's really kind of fucked. And I think that KTM knows that I mean, I think KTM sort of is like over Zarco, but they know that if they don't stick with him, they'll never get any good rider because no good rider will want to risk it. There's no way like they're going to snag someone who's on the up and up or who wants to do well and think like, oh yeah, like we'll get this guy and he'll come over, he's a race winner or he's been podiuming, and he's thinking like, hey man, I can't invest a year in this because 6 races into the season you're going to get ready to get rid of me.
Well, and not only that, they're not going to take the risk on the bike. Like if they can't, if the Yamaha is classically the bike that anyone can ride. See Fabio and Morbidelli's result here at Assen. Like if they can't produce a bike that Zarco can ride at least as well as Pole, who the hell is going to jump on it? Like Marquez isn't that stupid.
Right.
Like he's not going to have so much hubris that he's going to jump over to that thing like, oh yeah, I got this. That could be
right,
fine.
and the biggest problem they have, and I've gone back to this, is that like you put all this hope and all this money and time into Zarco, but it's not like Zarco knows what it takes to win a MotoGP race. I mean, I'm not talking shit, but he hasn't won one yet.
And Danny Pedrosa doesn't know what it takes to win a championship, which is what you said a couple of weeks ago.
Right. So the problem being is that like you never really know what you need. You know, this goes back to Yamaha going for Valentino. He, you know what I mean? Like he, back in 2003 when they signed him, and then he went to 2004 and raced for them, like when they went a year without winning. At some point, you need to have a guy who you know can win and win handedly so he can give you the right direction. Even Danny, I wonder, you look how shitty everyone on the Honda is doing except for Marquez, and you look at how bad Danny did in his final years. Like, does he really know like what they need to do? I mean, I love Danny, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of him, but they need to get someone. They need a serious coup. And
well, it's just bringing up Danny, like if you'd said with Bridgestones or with the Honda Electronics, I'd be like, yeah, hell yeah, he knows what it takes to win. But with the Michelin tires and the Spec Electronics and a trellis frame, even though he's only ever ridden a Honda aluminum twin spar, like, I don't know.
He's literally only ever ridden a Honda aluminum twin spar his whole career. 125s, 250 MotoGP. He's literally never done anything but ridden a Honda created engine or frame.
Yeah. So like Danny Pedrosa has a ton of experience, and he's definitely going to be valuable for KTM. Will he provide all the steps for them to produce a race-winning motorcycle? I'm not so sure. Like, will 80% of them? Absolutely. The last 20%?
And you look at other teams and other manufacturers that invested heavily in like a resurgence, right? Ducati did it. They got Gigi. They had Dovi. But what happened? They signed Dovi. They're not expecting Dovi to get anything other than the 7th for a while, right? They're not Dovi was right. Excuse me. Dovi was a long-term investment. Suzuki signs Maverick, and they put him on the bike, and they just say, hey, we're detuning this bad boy for you because we're getting you used to it. You know, like they signed Joan Mir, and they put him to a 3-year contract. That most of the teams that have like given themselves like a phoenix-like rebirth have done it with the understanding that it's a 3 to 5 year plan. Who hasn't done that? Aprilia, who sucks and has been circling, never doing better. And now KTM is. I don't care if you have all the money in the world. If you make $50 million a year from Red Bull for 5 years, and Zarco and Danny and fucking Pole, right? How many intermediate class championships is that? A lot. That's what, 2, 3. That's 6. Right? Danny's got a 125, 250, Zarco's got 2, and Pole's got 1. You got 6 intermediate or junior class champions on your bike. If you're not listening to them and planning them and rationally building off of it, it doesn't matter how much money you have and what talent you have on the bike. And I feel like that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're not doing, because they should be, like, Zarco shouldn't be in this position. They shouldn't be coming out in the media and saying like, well, if he's, we expect more of him. If he's not doing better than this, we've got a problem. And I mean, they kind of threw shade at each other back to back, and things haven't been that public since. But like even now with
they were real quick to throw out the no technical issue.
True. Yeah.
Even if your boy has arm pump, This goes back, man. If you're a team manager or you're a team coach or it's your job to take that off of the rider because so much of it is in between the ears. It's, you know what you say? Why'd he come in? Fucking wheel weight fell off. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah, I remember
right?
we had to talk about this, Kevin.
I've said this a million times.
You
Someone
have.
has to fucking jump on the grenade for Zarco. That's their fucking job.
Yeah.
Right? Their
not
job
huck
is
another one at him.
not huck another one at him. Their job is to fucking is to take the fucking bullet for him. That's their job because they take that bullet. No one knows who the Olin suspension guy is for fucking KTM. No one gives a fuck except for Rob. Rob's probably on a first name basis with him. They probably fucking text each other about screen rakes and shit. Speed dial.
Kev, they're the only ones on WP suspension.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Even better.
That Rob would know that.
Rob, right? Exactly. Rob's like, this motherfucker needs not talk. He's not talking about suspension.
Actually, I do know I have met someone that worked for WP suspension for the KTM Super.
Stop, Rob.
Team.
You're not helping yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
yeah, and then Rob's like, and so we made out in the corner. But you have to jump on that grenade for him. You do not put that. I mean, if he comes in because he's frustrated as all hell, that's not good. And y'all have a talk in the back, and you have a sit down with your rider and say, hey, man, we are not paying you to quit. It might be tough, but we know it's tough, and we're invested. We're talking about what you can do in 2.5 years from now. Like,
well, and I feel like that's the phrase they haven't said to him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about what you're going to do for us next race. We know you don't like the motorcycle, but you're going to do it anyway.
Right. It's like Puig.
So productive.
It's like Alberto Puig throwing shade at Jorge, like, show up and ride the bike that you have. Motherfucker, you got a guy winning titles on the bike. Why are you riding Jorge's back for it, man? You signed him. Give him what he needs. It's not like Jorge having a hard time with Honda is causing Honda problems. They got Marquez on his worst day getting second place. You know, like, it's all good, man. It's all gravy. Like, the idea that these guys throw their riders under the bus is crazy to me. Crazy to me.
Kev, are you going to be someone's team manager already or what?
I would be. I'm a good coach, man. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, I've coached people, and I've coached... I'm primarily my own individual athlete in my hobbies outside when it comes to, jiu-jitsu and all stuff like that. But I've coached many people at tournaments and in other sports. I coached youth sports the whole time. When kids make bumble-headed fucking plays, you know what you do? You tell them, I gave you the wrong call. I gave you the steal sign when it should have been the take the bunt sign or whatever, take the walk sign, right? Like, because athletes by nature are in their head. Athletes by nature are on the ragged line. I mean, you look at Valentino 20 years deep, he still does the same stupid ass superstitions that he always does. And Conor McGregor says that superstition is just another word for fear. Athletes are terrified of failure because professional athletes are so obsessed with success that failure is worse then winning is good. If you understand, like, the analogy that I'm saying there, right? Like, it's worse to lose. It feels worse to do bad than how good it feels to do well. That's like how tightly strung a lot of these guys are. And if you aren't managing your athlete to keep him in the best headspace possible, you are doing poorly. Like,
well, I think
you have to know your athletes. Some people respond to tough love better than other ones. Don't get me wrong. I've had friends and teammates in a variety of sports that respond to tough love. But you have to know when a certain rider responds to tough love or a certain athlete, and a certain athlete responds to, I don't want to say coddling, but keeping them from turning insulated. That blame by internalizing it, right? You want to externalize it. You know what I mean? You want to, and yeah, insulating is another word. But I think when you see Puig and you see what KTM is doing and you see some of these people, they are not being coached. Who am I to talk shit to Puig, right? How many world champions has the guy found? But Casey Stoner kind of reminds me of a guy who does well with tough love, right? He's a hard swinging Aussie. Don't take no shit. He fishes. You know what I mean? Like, certain people are different, and Jorge's not that guy, but he still has more championships than Casey Stoner. So he's not doing something wrong. You got to know how to do it. It's like being a teacher. Not every student learns the same way. You have to know how to personalize your coaching and management style. And I think right now they're doing more harm than good by their management style with Zarco.
I like that you bring up the comparison between success and failure. Like, one thing that you have to be as a motorcycle racer is forgetful. You have to forget those failures, because if you don't, they impact your performance right away. Like, absolutely. I mean, like even for me in Moto America, right? Like, I have a bad practice session or something, right? Or even first, like, go out on a setup and it's absolute garbage. You come in, you change it, you have to forget how shitty it was, and you just have to remember how good your setup was before that.
Cognitive dissonance is a advantageous trait when it comes to the tippy top of sports, the tip end. You know what I mean?
Performance.
Like,
yeah,
performance.
For sure.
You have to, right? You have, like, if you're laying it to your fucking lady, right, and you're in the zone and you're like, man, I could go for the next like 27 minutes, like, I'm in it. You can't think of that fucking time you couldn't get it up. Happens to everyone. Having a bad practice session happens to everyone. Losing the front happens to everyone. Your dick not working right happens to everyone. You can't be thinking about that shit. If Dennis is just like, I'm putting it down, and I text him and he's like, oh shit, Kevin texted me, let me stop giving it to you real quick, and he's like, remember the time you couldn't get it up? That was bullshit. Get hard more. Like, that's not gonna do him any favors.
Please don't text me that.
I love how.
Right. I'm literally going to text you that tonight at like 11:30. I'm going to be like, remember the time you couldn't get it up? Because there was in your life. I don't care how good you are at racing. There was a time where you fucked up. There was a time where you fucking couldn't get it going, right? You could not get... Valentino has that 3 times in a row now. The guy who has 9 world champions and like every record in the world. If you remind him at the time, hey man, how come you sucked at Mugello? That was lame. Like, 10 minutes before FP won at Assen. Not like, remember when you won Assen? That was dope. Not tonight, but tomorrow night, I'm going to text Dennis and be like, remember the time that you were fucking going so good? She had to talk dirty for you to get finished? Like, remember that? And you'd be like, fuck yeah, I remember that. That was my shit. And then 9 months from tomorrow, Dennis has another kid.
10 months.
And you name him Kevin.
And on that bombshell, I think it's time to end. Way to bring that one around, Kev. Back to the...
Woo!
That's straight on topic. Perfect. All right, everyone. If you're checking this out on YouTube, please like this video. Give us a thumbs up. It would be really helpful to get us out there everywhere. Also subscribe, because we know a bunch of you watch without actually subscribing, and we could really use, like, you know, a little more presence on YouTube. Kev.
See this dope shirt? See this thing?
Yeah, if you're on YouTube.
Boom. You can't get one. But there might just be a shirt that you can get sooner than you think.
That's true.
And it might not be a little over the top and flashy like this. It might be a little more subdued. It might be a little more 8-bit. It might be a little more Adovish.
It could be up your alley. It really could.
It could be right up your alley.
I told you to visit Laguna Seca, so come to Laguna Seca.
We got prizes.
Rob and I will be there too, actually.
Everyone's coming, right? Everyone's coming?
Kevin's coming?
Kevin better show up.
What?
All right. Either way, we're talking about this later. If you're on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, all the other streaming services, Spreaker, SoundCloud, thanks for listening. Tell your friends. And I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure we're not going to record after Sachsenring, because I will be driving to Laguna Seca.
So it's not because Marquez won. We record when he wins. Sometimes we can't. Literally last time I had to be like, my cat fucking died, right? I had to get real, like real. How real was I, Dennis?
Too real, actually.
Too real, right? Yeah. I had to be like, yo, man, my cat went down for the count, right? Like, real life happened, man. Fucking the big C got him. And that's why we didn't record for a minute. And people are still like making that joke, like, they don't record when fucking Marquez wins. First of all, there'd only be like half the episodes that we have if we didn't record when he wins. Rob, we're telling you right now, Marquez is going to win, and fucking Fabio's going to get second. He's going to get pole position 3 in a row.
Oh, damn.
And we call that the airtight.
You just jinxed it.
Yeah,
Don't
and
call it airtight.
Yeah, the reason that we're not recording right after Sachsenring is because Rob has to, go race motorcycles himself.
Yeah. So come say hi at Laguna, and we will catch you later. Peace.
Later.